All right, brother. Can you say your name, please?
Michael Harris.
Michael Harris. Okay. Now we interviewed you a couple weeks ago, because we were at the what other event were we at
We were
couple
at
weeks ago?
Sacramento City Hall, raising the flag at City Hall. Juneteenth is not a paid holiday, official recognized holiday in the city of Sacramento or the state of California.
Okay. So, can you just remind the people what we were doing there a couple weeks ago?
Well, that we were there because absent a request and a coherent understanding as to why Juneteenth should be a paid holiday in the city of Sacramento, it's not going to happen. The federal holiday was done in 2021, and this is 2025, and in the city of Sacramento, it's not a holiday.
Okay. So we are here in front of the Capitol today, celebrating Juneteenth and the raising the flag. Now, there was some rumors going around saying that there was a possibility that a flag was not going to be raised today. We do have footage that it is raised. So just from your understanding, can you please let the people know how the flag got raised and kind of the process of how it works?
Well, as I said earlier, 2021 Juneteenth became a federal holiday, and the discussion was with the legislature and the governor's office as to whether California joins many other states, I believe it's 30 now, to make Juneteenth a paid holiday. And the flag is, the national Juneteenth flag is the symbol of Juneteenth, and it's flying across the nation in Washington, D.C., capitals all across the country, in Alabama, the capital of the Confederacy. But, it's been a challenge here in the state of California. But today it's flying, and, the rumors, the the challenges that we have, we overcome challenges, and so it's flying today. The 160th anniversary of Juneteenth, the slavery that happened here, the auction blocks about a mile down the street that happened, the people that actually endured the taskmaster's whip. We do this work in honor of them, and future generations will not have to endure some of the challenges that we still have to overcome today.
Okay. Yeah, because I just kind of wanted to get more in terms of because for me, I heard just, there were just rumors like, oh, yeah, we didn't know if it was going to happen. That's why we came today, and it is flying today. Can you just explain, some of the procedures, how you can get a flag, raised? Because we actually have some footage, obviously, of, the American flag and some other flags, the California flag and some other flags up there. You could just explain the process of how a flag does get raised here on the Capitol?
Well, the Juneteenth flag is flying because it's a federal holiday, and it's a quasi-optional state holiday, meaning that if you want to celebrate the holiday, you have to ask your immediate supervisor for permission to have the holiday. The only federal holiday that's like that. So the process of anything at the Capitol, there is ways and means to make things happen. The primary function of the Rules Committee is to, make it real simple as to what happens on the grounds around the Capitol. The CHP is involved, various different agencies. So you have to get permission. Now, there's different politics that goes on inside the building, and rumors fly around that building. I don't work there. I'm not a paid lobbyist. I don't try to get involved in those things. We've been doing this work in and around the Capitol for 25 years. So it's sometimes it's best to pretend you don't hear things when you hear them.
Okay. All right. So give us kind of a brief history on Juneteenth, how it came about, and why are we celebrating
Well,
Emancipation Day?
The quick answer is, in the United States Constitution, people of African descent were not human beings. We were chattel slaves. 3/5 of a human being for somebody else's empowerment, because we were not human beings. We were not, recognized as humans. And so this is in 1776. And then when the Constitution was a few years later, again, we were not part of that. And so if you get to 1857, when the Supreme Court ruled in the Dred Scott decision, slave or free, the black man has no rights the white man is bound to respect. That was 1857, Dred Scott Supreme Court decision. And so during the Civil War, 1861, half the states were slave and half the states were free. And California was the 31st state, and the Confederate States of America. And so there was a war. And in the middle of the war, as a necessary and fit war measure, President Abraham Lincoln issued an Emancipation Proclamation freeing those that were in rebellion, in the states that were in rebellion, about 9 states. And so the salient aspect of the Emancipation Proclamation was to give the gun to what was called United States colored troops to help preserve the Union and end chattel slavery in America. And the seminal date is June 19th, at the last Confederate port in Galveston Island, Texas. Several thousand colored troops are bivouacking on the island, preparing for a 7-week campaign going plantation to plantation, sealing the border with Mexico, confiscating the cotton, and freeing those that were still enslaved. That's Juneteenth 101 in about 2.5 minutes.
Okay, so from my understanding, Juneteenth originated, if I'm correct, in Texas. Is that correct? Or is that incorrect?
Well, I mean, it is. There is.
Or the celebration, or the idea.
Well, the idea of a modern interpretation of Juneteenth happened. Really, it got started on the Mall in 1968 at a place called Resurrection City, and it was Solidarity on June 19th, 1868. This was right after Martin Luther King was killed. And then out of that, people went home and they started talking about what happened on Juneteenth at the Capitol in the Mall. And this is 68. And I'm not getting into all that. I'm going to stay on Juneteenth. So in 1997, there was a meeting of national organization. At the time, there were about 6-7 Juneteenth organizations. And they coalesced and they put together an organization called the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation. And I'm the co-director in California, the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, that went state to state, making Juneteenth the federal holiday that it is. Now that's the holiday. But Juneteenth has been celebrated by the people that were slaves when they got free. Freedom happened when the Union troops got there, and it didn't happen on one day. It was a 4-year war, and it was various locations, so people got free when the troops arrived, if you were in a slave state. If you were not in a slave state that was in rebellion, you got free at some point after, when the 13th Amendment was ratified that ended slavery unless you've been convicted of a crime. And so that's, chattel slavery is one thing. Slavery, if you've been convicted of a crime, is still on the books right now today.
Voluntary servitude.
Well, you've been convicted of a crime, so you can call it what you want to. If you've been convicted of a crime, you are, by law, by constitutional law, you can be deemed a slave. That's what the Constitution says, the 13th Amendment.
Absolutely. All right, so one more question, and then if you don't mind giving the people your contact information. So some people say that if it wasn't for, let's just call it what it is, the Union, and white people. It was basically them that helped free the blacks, and that the blacks didn't free themselves. Can you kind of either clarify that or confirm any of that information?
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of rumors. People, I have children. When they didn't have teeth, I didn't give them an apple and ask them to eat it. I cut it up, mashed it up. And so when people are intellectually children, haven't studied, haven't even, gone to a Juneteenth celebration, they will have delusional thoughts on what actually happened. Over 1 million people died in the Civil War. About 750,000 troops. And God knows how many people died of starvation and disease. If most people that have seen footage of complete towns, the headquarters of the Confederacy after Montgomery was Richmond, and it was completely destroyed. Atlanta, completely destroyed. So people, I mean, you're talking about homeless. We're talking about major towns in America destroyed. These are the capital, the industrial might of the Confederacy completely destroyed. The railroad tracks, the supply lines destroyed. So people died. Civilians died of disease. And a lot of enslaved people that were now free, they were shot in the back trying to leave. So there's, a lot of misunderstanding about Juneteenth, and it's only been a federal holiday for just a few years, 5 years. So people that have not studied, refuse to read, and certainly do not have any value or respect for people that have been doing Juneteenth for 25, 30 years, and my teacher's 50 years, it's not unusual in America for that to happen. People still celebrate Christmas, talking snowmen, flying reindeer, and Jesus in his manger is nowhere to be found. So I'm not expecting anything different from Juneteenth, me personally.
What do you think? Since we're having this conversation, we might as well just have it here.
Yeah.
Some people believe that Juneteenth, now that it's a federal holiday and it's federally recognized, etc., that it's been co-opted. Do you feel that Juneteenth, in a way, the essence has been co-opted and has been whitewashed or watered down?
Of course. And again, every Title V U.S. federal holiday is co-opted. The Thanksgiving, that's like a fantasy. Easter, it moves around. It's not one day that Jesus was hung on the cross. Every year it changes. So, the fact that there's going to be a commercialization of Juneteenth, it should be expected. But people of African descent had to hide and celebrate Juneteenth. Now it is a federal holiday. Everybody in America gets to celebrate Juneteenth and learn what it is, learn about the significant contributions to the forward flow of humanity of people of African descent had to endure. Most people aren't prepared or ready to talk about the beginning of slavery and how that happened with papal edict. Most people are not ready to have an adult conversation about the slavery that happened here in California. So, the standards and practices in the schools are supposed to teach about these holidays. And so we will begin to have that conversation on what is appropriate and what's inappropriate at certain ages to teach about the Juneteenth holiday.
I mean, do you feel like, so when I mean the message watered down, especially with the media and so forth, do you feel that because I saw a couple of reports this morning as I was coming to the event today, and I don't know, some of them for me, it just really didn't, not saying that we always have to accentuate, slavery, but it seemed like it was more like parties and festivals, which is fine because we definitely need to celebrate emancipation. But do you feel like sometimes the media actually doesn't really focus kind of like on that part of history?
Well, the media is not supposed to do that. And me personally, I mean, there's a lot of people celebrating Juneteenth that you didn't see them 5 years ago. They never were at a Juneteenth celebration. And now they're leading the charge on Juneteenth and flying the Marcus Garvey colors, which is nothing wrong with that. However, if you don't know the authentic history of Juneteenth, and you don't know it, why are you out there? So the media is, riding on that as well. There's a lot of people that are intentionally misrepresenting what Juneteenth is. Black, white, doesn't matter. There are a lot of people just simply profiting from Juneteenth. That is to be expected. But the reality is, as I said earlier, Juneteenth is a Title V federal holiday recognized by the United States Congress, and that in itself should be celebrated. Reverend Dr. Ronald Myers led the charge, and most people won't even mention his name, gave his life for the Juneteenth holiday. But the millions and millions of people that had a one-way boat ride during slavery and were thrown over ship when they died and were beaten and unspeakable things happened to them, some people disrespect that and think it's a funny joke. But the children are coming with Fortune School Choir, and we're going to get ready to wrap this, and we could come back and revisit this. But we have a Juneteenth celebration on the steps of the Capitol to fully enjoy this beautiful occasion of the 160th anniversary of Juneteenth. 160 years people have been celebrating freedom, and we haven't got the story right of what it is and how we were once not human beings, and now we're citizens of the United States. 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment by a bayonet and a bullet on the battlefield. Civil War.
All right, Mike, thanks for the conversation, brother. Where could people reach you?
Oh, the easy place is www.juneteenthcalifornia.com. And we have a difficult assignment, but, if it's hard, you go at it hard. 58 counties, 100 cities with over 100,000 people. And just like the city of Sacramento, it's not a paid holiday in the city of Sacramento. We want to align all of the cities with a Title V holiday, which is Juneteenth. And so if you are around the state and your city or your county is not celebrating Juneteenth, give us a call. We can come and help.
All right. Thanks, man.